Hey, Divine Being. Before we get into today's episode, I want to take this moment out to invite you into a holistic space for spiritual integration, my membership portal. There is where we go beyond inspiration and into true transformation. Inside, we focus on stabilizing the nervous system while integrating spiritual growth in a way that honors the mind, the body, and the spirit. It's not just about chasing our expansion and abundance. It's about becoming steady enough to hold the expansion and abundance that is already ours, that is coming to us, that has always been fortuned for us. Enrollment is limited and only open 2 times a year, this being one of them. The doors will close March 31st. There is a live membership event that happens each month, and this month is special as we are focusing on the spring equinox. We'll be using the spring equinox's energy to support us in balancing, regulating, and stabilizing our nervous system so that the changes that we have been talking about and making in the beginning of this year really take root and it doesn't overwhelm our system. We'll also be gently digesting the psychological and physical effects of the March 3rd lunar eclipse. You didn't know there was a lunar eclipse that just happened? Or maybe you did. Maybe you didn't realize there were things to do to help integrate those energies into our body. There is. And we'll be working with that too in this member only live event in the membership portal. It is time for us to really understand how energetic events can impact our body and how to consciously integrate them into ourselves rather than haphazardly moving through life or potentially bypassing the work that we can be leveraging from these energies. So if you are ready and you feel called to do this grounded work and you desire additional support for you and your nervous system so that you can truly transform and walk in the full abundance, baby, then I invite you to join me and the other community members before March 31st so that you can take part in this special activation and all of the beauty that this love integration portal has to offer you. By the way, all of the information to sign up is in the show notes, and you can always go to zyadivine.com for more information. I look forward to seeing you there. And now let's get into the podcast episode. Brr, 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 brr. Mwah.
Humanity is like in this like interesting space of like trying to figure out like it wants to be kinder to itself. It wants to live in a society where we don't have to resort to certain animal instincts, but it's also forgetting that in order to do that, we have to be soft with each other.
Welcome to Conversations with the Ancestors, where we connect to ancestral wisdom, cosmic insight, and healing rituals to redeem and liberate our souls. You're here because your higher self and your ancestors brought you here. So get your tea or coffee, take a breath, and settle in because, baby, this is for you. Hello, and welcome to Conversations with the Ancestors. Recently we've been talking about grieving and timeline shifts, and the last episode we really got into grieving the you and the timeline that you have left behind. And so now that you've left that behind, you've done the grieving process, you released what no longer serves you and cannot walk with you into this timeline. Now is the time to embrace the essence of you that remains, the person of you that brings forth the wisdom from all of the past timelines up until now. And so, as you've been doing that work of thinking about who you want to be now, who you are redefining as, what things are you finding out about yourself that you want to bring forward into this moment, into this new timeline? What parts of you did did not need to be left, but needed to be brought forward? And so today, in this episode of Conversations with the Ancestors, we talk about what remains when the past you have released and the past has also released you. I'm so excited to introduce today's guest, the first ever guest on Conversations with the Ancestors, Venus Fultz. And I apologize if I just said your last name wrong, Venus. But Venus is a non binary poet who enjoys romancing the liminal spaces of storytelling. Their pronouns are they, them, and Zay has over 10 years of experience as a professional and academic editor, but in traversing the spaces of academia and activism, Zay thrives where whimsy is honored and community care is nurtured. Venus received Zer's MFA in fiction at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, where the midnight sun tore them apart and the winter moon lovingly stitched them back together. Zer's creative work can be found in Morrow Magazine, Wood Wrongdoing Magazine, Resurrection Magazine, Spirits Not Ghost Anthology, and Purple Ink Press Feminist Bimbo Anthology. Venus is currently playing with visual poetry and tarot while always taking time to read love poems to the moon and sing to the sun. So, without further ado, I welcome Venus Fultz to the stage. Hi, Venus.
Hello. Howdy.
How are you? I'm so
I'm
happy
good.
you're
I'm
in this
good.
space.
My last name is Fultz, but it's okay. It's one of those weird short German names.
Thank you. Thank you for correcting me. Fultz. Thank you.
And
Thank you.
it's funny. It's actually funny that we're starting like with that because I was actually thinking about this recently. I am the only person in my family that has my last name.
Interesting.
Right?
That is interesting. And honestly, in the essence of today's episode, it makes me want to ask the question of, is that a piece of you that you want to keep embracing? As you,
Right.
right, like, I've just gone through my own name change and shifting branding and things of that nature. And so it's like, what even names can shift and be a part of the new identity. And so that question just came to my mind, like, not to say that that's anything wrong with faults.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just say there's anything wrong with it. Just that question of, oh, that's so interesting. Is that a piece of you that you want to keep embracing moving forward? It sounds very unique and that you're the only one with the name in your family. That's pretty cool.
Right. And I like something that like I'm really honoring about myself is I'm really curious. Like I am just a super curious person. And in the past, that kind of came out more as being nosy and gossipy. And the energy of that isn't really an energy I wanted to keep sitting in. Like I would be
Mhm.
having conversations with people and they'd be telling me like, "Oh, let me tell you the tea." And I'd just be like, "I don't know that those people want me knowing this." It feels a little weird. And then one time I did a tarot reading for someone and they asked about someone who I don't know and they barely even know. And the tarot cards were giving me this energy of like, why are you asking? this is so like working through that, but still honoring I'm a curious person. And one of the ways I've been doing that is sort of what has come together. Like, this is, you know, me. I'm living. I'm a human. that right there is already like this is something you're sitting with.
Right.
And then also, why this name? Why, like when I tell people my name, they're always like, oh, okay, so you chose, what a cool name to choose. And I'm like, oh no, I didn't choose Venus. I was born with this name. And that gets a completely different reaction from people, especially people in the spiritual, like who are really into their spirituality. Because before, I think they have this like, oh, okay, you chose a goddess's name. But then when I'm like, no, I was born with this name, they're like, oh, wait.
Right. And that makes me think of another question. My curiosity, right, is popping up right now.
Mm-hmm.
But we've talked in the past about the elements of that name Venus and the journey to embracing it and in different ways, as you've grown as an individual. And so I guess my like question is, as you're in this new timeline, becoming this next version and iteration of yourself and supporting others, as you embrace who you are and stand in who you are, just being in that shared authenticity supports others in doing the same, right? So as you're doing that, you're embracing that. What has been a little bit of the journey to embracing the name Venus and standing in that? And how do you see that moving forward in this new timeline for yourself?
Yeah. So it's actually, when I was really little, I actually, up until sixth grade, went by Mary. And I first thought that my mom gave me that name um, because of church reasons. But I actually, like last month, asked my grandma, and she was like, no, Venus, you chose Mary. And looking back, like even like 5, 7-year-old me, like, yeah, would want the name of the mother of God. It was like, okay, pop off, tiny me. But I did that because I got teased a lot for my name. Venus rhymes with penis, which is also funny because I am, genderqueer, trans. So I've got the masculinity within me, which I think is like a fun layer to that. And then, or people would, say, oh, you're from outer space, which we could get into the conversation of starseed there.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. In sixth grade, I was like, no, I'm going to go with Venus. And recently, I have sort of kind of been playing with, do I want a masculine name?
Mm-hmm.
But I also, because like I very much, the way that had been experiencing the world was this like sort of like my personality is like very masculine, but people are seeing this like feminine body, and it's uh, what a lot of people call gender dysphoria, experiencing that. But I recently had a conversation with someone who was telling me that in their culture they have the concept of like dead man in a woman's body. So the masculine soul gets reborn into the female body because it has lessons to learn. It can only learn in the female body.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
And that felt like an invitation. And then getting into that curiosity of like, oh, well, I like a challenge. That
Right.
appeals to the masculinity, but also kind of appeals to like the whimsy and the curiosity.
Yeah.
And then I kind of thought about it deeper because I like thinking about like, okay, I've gotten to this point where just all of the signs I've been getting from the universe is all like, don't judge where we're at. We got here for a reason. So take away the judgment and just sit in it.
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm.
also add some whimsy to it. Where is the humor in that? And so I was born, I'm an Aries, and the tarot card for Aries is Emperor. And in a way, is there not a humor in a masculine soul who feels very emperor-like, and the universe being like, now experience it from the other side?
Right, right. I feel like it invites you to experience the not just the duality, but the balance of divine feminine, divine masculine, the balance of light and dark, sun
Mm-hmm.
and moon, you know, just like you mentioned in your bio, that balance is a part of, I think, as we move into this new timeline, into new ways of being, embracing the duality of ourselves, embracing the balance that we have within, and knowing that it's okay to hold more than one version of ourselves, to show up more than one way when we interact with folks, and to know that, like, it's still all you. You're not fronting, you're not faking, you know, it's still all you.
Mm-hmm. And that has been like something that, from a very young age, I feel like in the society, we're very much like in capitalism in America, we're kind of taught that you need to put on a front.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always been this tension with me and like these spaces I like in the spaces I go into until like recently. Like in the space where I met you, where for the very first time I was like, oh, I don't feel this tension. I can just be myself. I can
Mm-hmm.
sit in my masculinity, but I also don't feel like I feel an invitation to also start exploring my femininity in a
Mm-hmm.
way that I felt like had never really been offered to me before. Even in like trans spaces, I feel like it's very much a like, you need to become the other, like, okay, your outside should match your inside. But like, what if, but I'm, I think also I've always identified as a bisexual. So I've always like saying, why not both?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And recently I've become very interested in the mathematical equation of 1 + 1 = 1. And it's where if you literally take that one and put it on top of the other one, you still get one. But it is a
Mm-hmm.
blending of those two separate ones into something new.
Yeah.
And there are things that are like, you do have to lose some things to get to that singular, that new one. But I like to look at it as a romance between those two. um, but I mean, also, I'm such a romantic. How could I not be with my being named Venus?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the curiosity of it all has really led to finding the whimsy, which I feel like there's not a lot of space for whimsy. I remember in a lot of my writing in graduate school, one of my professors was British, and she talked about how Americans do not like whimsy in their writing. Even in children's books, like they can get kind of they're like, ugh, whimsy. But I mean, if the British do whimsy very well, and regardless of feelings about the actual authors, I mean, if you think about the most popular children's books, a lot of them are British. And
Yeah.
the English language itself is very whimsical. You have
Mm.
words that sound the same and mean completely different and are spelt differently and look completely different.
Mhm.
You have word like the word higgledy-piggledy is a word in the English language. It just means
What
like
does that
scattered all
mean?
over the place.
Pickledy, pickledy? What does that mean? What?
It's just like things scattered all over the place. So like you enter like in your professor's office and his papers and books are higgledy-piggledy everywhere.
I've never heard of that word. I think
Right.
tchotchkes is a very whimsy word. Um, yeah, I think tchotchkes, but pickledy is really great. I love that. I
Right.
love that you have brought forth the word whimsy because it's actually something that I wanted to bring forth too. When I was reading your bio, first of all, I feel like your bio exudes wonderment and childlike influence and the whimsy. And I don't think many bios ever really do that. Even the ones that are like connected with like oracle decks or things that would be more whimsical, I still don't see that level there. And so it was fun to read yours and to, share it with the podcast audience. But one of the things that you say in there is that you thrive where whimsy is honored. And I loved that because I feel like that was like a great location to start. And so I want to read a quote and then say a little bit more about that whimsy word and talk with you about it. So the quote is from Ramtha, the White Book, on page 180 in chapter 13. It says, "What is important is now. You are the product of now. Your life is lived in the now. Your future is created in the now. When you realize what that now is all there ever is, you will inevitably choose to live your life in such a way that in each moment you live the adventure that the feelings in your soul urge you to pursue. That you are experiencing whatever you have never experienced before in order to expand yourself into even greater wisdom." And so, why I bring that forward is because I feel like whimsy is found in the now moments. The moments when you choose the adventure of your soul versus choosing something someone else or someone else's script has said you must do, right? In the last episode before this one, we delved into grief and what can come from a timeline shift and embracing self-forgiveness. But it's like, how do you find and embrace the desires of your soul now, which is a part of the you that remains, is the true desires of your soul. And I feel like embracing those desires of the soul truly comes from finding the whimsy, finding the childlike mystical adventures, those things help us embrace the person that remains when we're stepping out of a new timeline. So yeah, I wanted to pose that.
Well, and I think it's really important because I feel like a lot of people, especially in countries where we have or like we are aware that like what we do impacts the rest of the world. And that can feel very overwhelming. Then you have the reality of climate change, climate chaos, however you want to call it. And there's a lot of getting stuck in that sort of swamp of the past. The past, it's going to rot. And rot is healthy. It feeds what's going to bloom next. Sometimes we are in the rot. It does happen. How else do you grow? But we don't stay there. you know? And we also, because I feel so many people feel stuck in that, they then get stuck in just wanting to only daydream about the
Mm-hmm.
future. Like they only want to be in that dream space. And I mean, you see so many people are just on like, and art is a really good place for that. And I feel like right now, so many people are just with like phones and screens. That's all they have the capacity for. But it kind of keeps them from really rooting into their body and getting into the now. And to really root into the body and get into the now, rather than have it be scary, because I feel like a lot of people are scared to do that. Like I've heard from a lot of people, they just don't want to be themselves. And I think that's really sad.
Yeah.
But if you approach it with the whimsy, with some softness, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like it doesn't have to be all at once. Like don't burn out your nervous system. You know, in your first episode, you talk a lot about it's the year of the fire horse. So you work with fire. You don't control fire. If you try to approach it from trying to control it, I mean, if you look at a lot of people in charge who are approaching it in like the sense of like, we're gonna control this, it's all out of control.
Yeah.
You
Right. Right.
can't.
Yeah.
Um, so think instead, you know, like there's in that rooting, something I come back to a lot is the rootedness of indigenous practices, especially with the land. And I know here
Mm-hmm.
on Turtle Island, there's the concept of the controlled burn,
Mm-hmm.
where you can, you know, you are burning away some land, but it's to foster new growth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I think, you know, letting that light in you, like everybody is on in a different part of their journey. And it's okay if the only fire you can engage with is a little hearth fire to heat up some tea, some chamomile tea to warm you.
That's so gentle. That's so gentle. You know that you need those things by being in the now, by
Mm-hmm.
like being in tune with your body and embracing what you need. I feel like that's really the piece around coming into who you are becoming in this new timeline is being aware of your body, being aware of what your soul is asking and communicating to you, which a lot of times our body is a reflection of the quietness of our soul because our soul moves in such stillness, our intuition moves in such stillness, and our body is in tune with that and will speak a lot louder than than the soul and the quietness of our intuition. And so when we tune into our body, it's another way of tuning into our soul. But that happens in the now. That happens in the present moment. That happens in us moving in divine inspiration and being like, ooh, this is where I want to, what I want to do, you know? Um, I feel like there are many ways for us to timeline jump and embrace who we are as we're jumping from timeline to timeline and transforming into the new timeline. But also, like when you timeline jump, it's a huge transformation, it's a huge rebirth. And so, I'd like to talk about a few different ways that you still can embrace pieces of you as you've jumped into these new timelines. And there's three that specifically came to mind as I was, meditating and working on this episode is to embrace your magic, embrace your lineage, and embrace your God power, baby. And so I'd love to explore embracing those three pieces with you, Venus: magic, lineage, and God power. And would love to just begin with embracing the magic, your own magic. And what do you feel like that looks like, at least for you as an embodied experience, for you as a accomplished writer, for you as a human expressing your God form?
Yeah. It actually kind of meanders well into, so I have always loved cooking for other people. Like, I just love to cook. But I do enjoy it for myself as well. And I think with the magic, especially because for me, I personally, like growing up, everybody kind of like joked I was spiritually dead. That's not true. I'm just like kind of on a different wavelength than they are.
Mm-hmm.
There's a process of like accepting that, and being okay with that. Like, everybody, I see existence as kind of like a tapestry. And we can't all be the same thread, right?
Right, right.
If
Yeah.
otherwise, where is the beautiful picture? Where is the whimsy? Where is the movement? How can we change?
I just want to
So
wait. I
where,
want to wait. I don't want to take away your thought, but I just
you know,
have to connect something because so when you're moving from a new timeline, and I believe everybody evolves. Like when I evolve, you evolve because we're one. We're all God. So that means every time I evolve, all of God is evolving. So all of us are evolving, right? And just because we've all evolved and collectively we have timeline jumped into a new timeline doesn't mean my new timeline and the frequency of my new timeline is equatable to the new timeline or frequency of your timeline, even though we all have jumped and we all have evolved. And so I love that what you just said is, and why would we want it to be? Because that takes away from the whimsy, that takes away from the layers of the fabric, the thing that we're creating as creators, right? The what I want to say, I see a quilt, the quilt that we're creating, like there's stories that are placed into quilts. They patch different things into the quilt, and each patch has a different story, has a different frequency, has a different timeline. And so when we have all evolved and changed and moved, it's okay that my timeline doesn't align with your timeline. It's okay that we may not be friends anymore because your timeline moves you in this different way. It's a part of the tapestry of what we need. It makes life continue to be whimsy. It doesn't have to be sad. There's this ability for more fun and diversity in that way. And so I love that you brought that forward, and I just wanted to grab a hold of that and just give it a little bit more breath there. So thank you. I
oh
think that's a part
yeah,
of think that's a part of embracing the magic of a timeline shift.
one way that I feel like in the past I would get kind of frustrated with, I think I was never really drawn to spirituality for a really long time because it can feel like a closed off club sometimes. And it's like, how does that help someone like myself who comes from poverty? But it is accessible to everybody. We're all in, and we all have our own form of magic. And for myself, one of the ways I anchored myself into being like, I'm tired of living my life, throwing everything at it, burning out, fizzling out. not feeling like I'm around people who can understand me, but also feeling like so locked up. I want my life to be soft. And I just kind of started there, soft and whimsical. And I really started, like with, I think, like with the tea. It's a physical act that puts me in my body. And drinking the entire cup of tea without looking at my phone, not even listening to music. But it's fine if like you do need that. Like these things, like there's nothing wrong with it because it is nice to engage the senses. But one thing I really wanted was to fully come into my body. I've never felt like I've fully been in my body until recently. So if I'm just, yes. So if I'm making the tea, heating up the water, I started with it, just putting the cup in the microwave, putting in the tea bag. And now I'm at the point where I heat the water on the stove. I have the loose leaf tea. I made earlier, like, it's a cinnamon rose tea. And the cinnamon, the cinnamon stick with, yes, some honey in there and oat milk. But like a cinnamon stick, like you need to boil it for a bit. You really, in order to extract not just the flavor, but also the essence of it. And then really to even like further engage with the magic in it, because if you think about our ancestors, I mean, we are on the podcast Conversations with the Ancestors. Our ancestors had conversations with the other beings on this earth. Like this, like split that seems to have happened is very recent in the history of humanity. And so reading, like doing the research on what these, like the flowers, the roots, the bark I'm drinking, what they were used for in the past, how my ancestors used them, where, do they, like, are they indigenous to one place, or are they, like one of my favorite teas, dandelion tea. Dandelion's just everywhere.
It is.
And dandelion is everywhere, not even just and dandelion's been everywhere even before humans, I'm pretty sure. I'm remembering my history. I also like doing like there's the magical aspect of like what do they bring out, and our ancestors learned that from having the conversations with the plants to know, also with conversations with the other, like the animals, to see what the animals are eating, to know. And so like when I make the tea, when I put when I'm assembling it, like when I'm putting it in the water, I'm putting in the teapot, out loud, I speak what each leaf or flower is for. So for example, if I'm making my favorite chamomile lavender rose tea, I put in the chamomile, and as I'm putting it in, I say chamomile for healing, love, self-love, abundance. Lavender for healing, peace, awareness, intuition. Rose for intuition, love, protection. And then after I did that for a while, talking about like the whimsy and magic of it, those three, they each have something that they do connects them to the other one.
I love this integrated practice you have with tea. And I also love that in one fell swoop, you combined all three of the things that I wanted to talk about, embracing into like your what you just said, embracing your magic, yes. And then also embracing lineage, because you talk about the herbs and their lineage and your ancestors, our ancestors, period, connection to the plant life and earth. And to even know that our plants are ancestors. Earth
right. At some point, we share DNA with them. Like at some point, we all.
Right. So there's that piece. And then you employed your God power with your voice of enacting the tea when you're saying lavender for calm and da da da, cinnamon for prosperity and abundance. When you're saying those things, you're enacting your God power, your God voice, your God essence into calling forth the properties of that plant. And so, like, you've really enacted all three pieces that I wanted to touch on, and you showed it being integrated into your daily life by the simple act of being here now and drinking some tea. I just,
Mm-hmm.
can we just, you see how simple, like, I just want people to catch how simple it can be to embrace who you want to be by being in the now moments, by taking time to, even if it's just the part of making your tea, like every time I drink water, I pray over it. And I'm saying stuff like, may the essence of water cleanse and clear my cells. May the essence of water flow through me and help me to be flow and bring forth more abundance and prosperity. May flow come to my podcast listeners. May flow and ease come to my clients. May flow and ease come to my love and integration portal members. May abundance like water fall down on me and all those who are around me and all those, like I'm praying over my water as I drink it. And I'm not just praying for me, I'm praying for humanity. And so like it embracing your magic, your God essence, and your lineage can all happen in one moment. It doesn't have to be this arduous thing that I think sometimes we can feel bogged down into doing. So that was really yummy. Wow. One of the things that I like to remind our listeners is that magic and our internal magic is not just like, ooh, the whimsy of spirituality and magic. I'm really talking about the essence of who you are and your ability to be you. Like magic can show up as just like right now, Venus, you exemplified your own magic by sharing your story, sharing who you are, sharing your name, and sharing what you did. And the magic of how you shared it and expressed it allowed me to pick up on it and then say XYZ about these things, right? Like that was a magical thing that you just did. You're one of the things that I've noticed about you in our, relationship and our friendship has been the way that you look at things is a magic because it in our co-creation of talking and etc. When you look at something, I'm like, oh, I didn't see it from that way. And then I immediately pick up something else and see it from another way, right? And that is a magic. That's a magic that you have to be able to allow somebody to see something in a different way. And so I think sometimes we get caught up in the word magic as like, oh, it needs to be, I manifested this something, when in actuality, it is the essence of you, your sheer abilities that you exemplify on a daily basis is a magical essence in itself. And I just didn't want us to miss that. And I also wanted to just highlight your ability to show your magic. Thank you.
I'm grateful for that. Like you having the podcast open up for the conversation, I think is also this like way that then listeners and others can begin to integrate it within themselves. Like a lot of people, and I know I felt the same way, is it's like, okay, I feel stuck in this narrative, and this is the only narrative that exists. And it makes sense because from a very tiny from childhood, we're like, okay, here is the world presented to me. How do I survive this? And it can
Right.
be very overwhelming because also it's not something that our bodies, like our bodies are animals. And especially for those of us who have experienced extreme trauma, our bodies, the way they naturally react, does not coincide with the way that we're told to keep going on. Like, if we actually act that way, we would be punished. And I do think that, because I remind myself, humanity is in this interesting space of trying to figure out, it wants to be kinder to itself. It wants to live in a society where we don't have to resort to certain animal instincts, but it's also forgetting that in order to do that, we have to be soft with each other. And we also need to be in conversation. We need to be present. We need to let the magic flow. We need to let it grow. Sometimes we need to let it go. Let some of the things go. That's part of, the earth does it all the time. And the earth is so good at it that when a volcano erupts, it takes out a lot of land, but it always leaves a few patches of green. And there's a word for it. I don't remember the word for it, but in Hawaii they have a complete understanding, and their gods come from the way that the land moves, and how even in the little lava cracks, the cracks can receive the little seeds, and the crack is there in such a way that it provides shelter from the sun beating down on the black of the hardened lava, so that then the trees can grow. And so if we let ourselves just let go of the burden. And it circles back to how you were saying, when I evolve, you evolve. We have talked a lot about when I heal, you heal. And it's but you have to let go of that stuff, and it's messy, and that's okay. And some people are able to let go and be messy in front of others. But then when we do it and we get to the point that, okay, we've done it, we know it can be done, and now other people can do it. And then those people will do it, and then they will be a soft, safe space for other people to also do it.
Yeah.
It's in the indigenous in the gardens, when Europeans came over, they had no idea that the tribes knew how to garden, because they garden in a different way. They garden in a way that listened to the plants. And they have the three sisters gardens, which are the beans and the corn and the squash. And the corn grows first. Someone has to grow first. But once the corn grows, the beans can wrap around the corn, and beans can take, I think it's nitrogen out of the air of the soil in the way that the other two can't, which is really good for the plants, and they share it. And then the squash, now that it has its yummy nitrogen, grows, and then its big broad leaves become, shade for the other two and protection from the pests. And some of us are corn, cool. Some of us are beans, some of us are squash.
Yes.
And in the beautiful thing in a lot of indigenous cultures is they honor their ancestors. They are listening to their ancestral wisdom. And so I feel like I really came this way because I love reading. And I shared actually a lot of what I know. I shared the book with you. It's by Robin Wall-Kimmerer.
Yes.
Why am I blanking on the
Sweetgrass?
name of the book? Oh,
Is it
Braiding
Sweetgrass?
Sweetgrass.
Braiding Sweetgrass. I was
Yes,
almost close. Braiding Sweetgrass.
yes.
Yeah.
And it's such a good book. And it, like, something I see, like, with writing, you know, as another way of, like, expressing the godhood. Like, I love seeing, like, if you put all of, like, human writing together, I feel like you would, like, oh my gosh. And so, like, with writing and even, like, storytelling, like, I'm really, I actually haven't, like, I've been writing a little bit. I used to be writing all the time, and I was, like, always so just, like, anxiously, like, writing. Um, and I've actually stepped away from, like, writing on the computer. I still, like, write, like, handwriting. I think more people should, like, or I would encourage more people to really get into, like, handwriting things, because I actually, like, looked at some past journals of mine recently, and, like, everything that I was, like, writing about, like, myself kind of came true, and I was like, "Mm." I was like, "Oh, I should probably write kinder things about myself." Because
I
sometimes the
wanna
narratives that we're writing aren't always our narratives, aren't always nurturing narratives. Which is one of
this
the
is
reasons I kind of took a step away from actually writing, the physical writing. But as I said in my bio, I'm, like, playing with visual poems, which are fun. But I'm also really interested in, like, with podcasts, like, storytelling, and, bringing back that element of storytelling. I mean, phones and electricity are a form of fire. So in a way, we're sitting around the fire telling stories.
yeah, we're having a fireside chat right now, okay? For real.
And that, for our ancestors, was how you inspire, like, in the darkest, like, winter months, or, like, and, like, rituals, like, storytelling is so important. But you
It
also have to
is.
let the story breathe and evolve.
Right. We've already touched on this, but I want to like really bring it to the forefront is the piece about embracing lineage, embracing ancestry, embracing the earth, and knowing that like that is also a part of how you move forward into a new timeline. We've touched on some different ways of how to embrace lineage and just like remembering it, like ancestral practices, connecting with teas and even thinking about how things were, what's the word I'm looking for, cultivated. One of the a question I have for you is how do you see because you're very connected to a multitude of lineages through your research, through your own spiritual work. You've really gotten a good sense of a variety of different lineages and played how they have played on this world before us. And so my question to you is what from those different lineages do you now desire to glean from and bring forward, and not glean from in a way of appropriation, cultural
Mhm.
appropriation, not in that way, but like the wisdoms, the understandings, the connections to earth, the that type of gleaning is what I mean. When we're harvesting and we're getting new harvest, we're looking at each plant and we're gleaning and we're grabbing what needs to move forward with us. And so when we're thinking about lineage and your understanding of so many different lineages, I would love to hear how you see yourself moving forward with wisdoms from lineages that you have learned from.
Well, it's really, for me, about continuing actually to deepen into the moment of the now, in the sense of what, not just like when I open my phone and I can look up anything. Awesome. Starting off point. But what in the now moment is being reflected to me? Whose sign, who is actually reaching out to me versus who do I just, like research is good and stuff, but when it comes to the actual like lineages of my own ancestors, and then also lineages that want to work with me because there may be ancestry there in a way that I'm not aware of. I have no idea about my dad's side of the family, like at all. And maternally, I also know there are secrets over there. So there are some, like, we just don't know. Because also, like, I was born here on Turtle Island. And I've moved so many, I move a lot. That's just, I've never really lived in one place for more than 3 years. And so being in the moment of the now of like, what is the land right now trying to tell me? And who's coming up for me? Like the who was coming up for me, even though I didn't know it because it hadn't really clicked then. But I lived in Alaska for like 3 years. And the lessons Alaska had to teach me, which I am still like integrating and like finding new depths to, are very different from right now. I live in the high desert. And that's also kind of fun because that kind of gives a layer of, I was raised in the Christian tradition, and the desert is very big in Christianity. Like it is popping up in the Bible a lot. So noticing the place that I'm in, noticing the plants that are reaching out to me, the animals that are resonating with me, and also who's popping up in my dreams. The experiences in my dreams with God's ancestors that I never would have even thought of. And so taking that seriously and rooting into the moment of now and seeing how it grows, not trying to rush into it and building that practice of listening.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think a part of that practice of listening comes back to the now, and it also connects to that God power. Our God power is really that ability to create and choose where your attention and intention lies, right? And so wherever we put our focus is where our energy goes, where our creative power goes. And so really in this new timeline, I want to encourage all of us to be putting our focus and our intention and our energy into really what we want to see happen. Not the doubts about it, not the, what if it looks this way or what if it doesn't look this way. Just really, really being, I think I've said this at some point, Taurus stubborn about what it is you want to see, who you want to be. That's a part of our God power. That's a part of how we create. And as we like move into this timeline and work to embrace who we want to be, how we want to show up, the us that remains, how are we embracing being the fullness of our God, whatever way that shows up, however we desire it to, And I know sometimes someone can hear the word fullness of our godness and fullness of how we show up, and it can feel overwhelming or daunting, right? Like, oh, I'll fully be God. What does that really mean? But what I desire and what it can be easy, going back to the whimsy of it all. asking that inner child, being in the now, the fullness of your intention or intention and intention is in connection to what's happening in the now. What does the now being of you want? And then
Right.
doing that, that's being in your fullness when you're doing exactly what your internal now being is saying you desire, doing that. I feel like that's where the God power lies. That's where the ability of now is. And when we move with whimsy and curiosity and playfulness and joy, what you're cultivating is a newer, higher frequency of light.
Right. And it lets in like that whimsy and curiosity lets in surprise. And I think like a surprise I see is like is a gift, you know. Like you talked about like the like stubbornness of Taurus. And my mind immediately was like, yeah, Taurus is the bull. And then I was like, oh, and bulls were in ancient Greece sacrificed to Poseidon. And Poseidon was of the sea, flow. Poseidon was also the father of horses.
And we're in the horse year, and Neptune, who is another example of Poseidon, has now entered into Aries.
And right. It's like taking like a little bite of like a tiered something yummy like a parfait. It is beautiful in its
Yeah.
whole. The word parfait. And I mean like with Taurus, like there is a reason there is like like a certain sort of like we are in, there are certain structures that stay because, we're on Earth. We like to stay. um, Maybe one day, and like the soul does yearn for the stars, and I think maybe in like eventually. But what do we have right here, right now? What's the
Mm-hmm.
yumminess of right now? Don't
Mm-hmm.
give up the dream, but also where's the curiosity and the love and the whimsy for where we are right now? For your body right now. For the longest time, it felt like I was in a society that didn't want me. And then I pivoted to like, well, maybe this society is just one that can't hold me because it doesn't know how to hold me. And now I've pivoted to a kind of like, but I'm still kind of thriving here now that I've let myself have fun with it. And it's not in the way that I was told thriving looks like.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm having so much fun because I'm having like, I never could have ever dreamed of a friendship with someone like you, that you could exist. It just didn't feel possible. But it does. It is. And I think that if we just let ourselves sink into that like curiosity, that moment of now, we can find that path into it. And it's I don't know, I always got to go back to the garden. Another fun the goddess Venus originally was a cabbage goddess, so garden goddess, fertility. Plants don't all grow at the same rate. What you're harvesting in May is not what you're harvesting in June or what you're harvesting in August. The
I
strawberry is doing something beautiful, but is not doing the same thing the oak tree is doing. But as science is starting to realize, and as indigenous cultures have been telling them this entire time, if you look underneath, their roots are all connected and they're sharing the resources.
I love that, Venus. I think that was an amazing way to pause here before we go into our final just like integration piece. And I want to thank you so much for bringing forward your magic, your God power, your humanness, your lineage, your connection to multiple lineages, your learning, all of the ways that you showed up in your authenticity today in this episode. I'm immensely grateful. And we're going to take a quick break, viewers, and we will be right back. This is for you. This is for you. This is for you. Ancestors, it's for you. This is for you, for you, for you, for you. This is. Thank you so much, Venus. Any last words before we do the closeout integration piece with the podcast folks?
I just really wanted to take the time to express my gratitude for you for having this space, creating this space, and also it being a space that is open to having someone like myself and others, because I know you're going to have other guests, and I'm so excited for this whole season. I loved the first season too. But you're just so affirming of getting to have fun and be soft and really love being the you that, like I feel love for myself in a way that I have never felt it before. And it really has been because I've been working with you and also our friendship, like even beyond like doing ancestor work with you, like our friendship beyond that has just been so affirming. And what we're doing right now and what you're doing is art and storytelling. And I think it's so important. And I'm just so blessed to get to be a part of it. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Venus. Oh, you're trying to make me cry on the podcast.
Crying is good. Crying is good.
It is. It is. Let it flow. Let it flow. Let it flow. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And folks, if you want to connect with Venus, you can find Zer on Substack underneath their masculine nom de plume, Blue Walker, Boo, Boo.
Oh, Beau.
Bo. Bo.
Which is the French masculine word for beautiful.
I love it. I love it so much. I will have that link in the show notes, folks. So don't worry if, I butchered the name, but it's going to be in the show notes. So look there for that. And let's go ahead and do just our final integration. So as we integrate all that we talked about, we went into how are you embracing moving into this new timeline, embracing the pieces of you that remain, and knowing that the pieces of you are connected to your inherent magic, your lineage, and your God essence. And one of the ways that I want you to do that integration practice is take some time to sit, reflect after this podcast or when you have the next moment, and journal about what your magic is. What are the things that you like about yourself that you want to pull forward into this new timeline? Journal about your magic, journal about your lineage. How is it showing up? What pieces that you want to carry forward? And also journal about what it means to you to walk in your God essence. Finally, let's take some deep breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. We'll do 3 together. Inhaling in. Exhale out. Inhale in. Exhale out. Inhale in. Exhale out. If it feels good and comfortable for you, Place one hand on your body wherever it might feel comfortable in this moment. Let your breath continue to do what it does. And if something softened in you today, let it stay soft. If something resonated and allowed a piece to fall away and end, let it end cleanly. Cleanly, let it end cleanly. And may your magic be expressed in its fullness. May it be lived authentically and not have to be followed by any explanation. And may your power be direct, be full, and know that you do not have to prove it. And may your lineage continue to recognize you, support you, uphold you, and know that your work is complete. Now we move forward with the wisdoms and the soul yearnings of the now moment. You are more than allowed to stop becoming and to be. Just be. As a reminder, my Love Integration Portal members, you get this podcast episode first. And I will see you in the Love Integration Portal for our After the Conversation, where we go deeper into integrating that embracing the now of you and the who you are as you move forward. I love you, divine beings, with all of my heart. And I wish you all of the best as you move through your day, your week. And I'll see you next time on Conversations with the Ancestors. This has been Zya. Mwah. Bye. Conversations with the Ancestors is produced and edited by Zya Divine. Theme music for you, written and co-performed by Robin Denise. Continue your integration work in the Love Integration Portal at ZyaDivine.com. Once again, that's ZyaDivine.com.